Hey, you're listening to the Superpower Radio Show with your host, Brenda Major,
Mia Dawson.
and we are, as always, so excited to provide this safe and supportive community for people impacted by autism. We know autism is a superpower because of the gifts that it brings out in all of us. And so our desire is to provide that supportive space, to give you a little bit of a break sometimes, to introduce strategies, support, comfort, and humor for caregivers of folks on the autism spectrum. Now, we are not trained clinicians, nor are we diagnosticians. We do not have degrees in autism or the spectrum. And so we are just supportive. We are learning and sharing as we go. And we had so much fun talking with Barb Nagel on our last show that we brought her back. We brought her back. So Barb is an angel. She's the angel across the street from Mia.
Yes, she is.
So we know she's been a godsend to you and your family. And we learned last time that Stefan, now was Stefan kind of watching Malachi grow up, and you guys were watching Neo?
Yeah, I think so. And at some point, Malachi, I don't remember how old he was, but they had that men's retreat.
Yes.
And Stefan invited Malachi to go on the men's retreat.
Yes.
And Malachi went. And I imagine that, that kind of opened up Stefan's eyes a little bit too.
It did.
Wow.
It did. That is
So
very
about
true.
how old was Malachi then? And I want to say I'm surprised that he went.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is the men at Abundant Faith have been such a blessing to Malachi. They have mentored him and just embraced him. I think he just sees them as one big family to him. So that's been really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too that he wanted to go, but he did, and he enjoyed it. So, but see, the other thing about Malachi is he relates better to adults, and I know it was mostly adult men. Donald Mays, he was part of it. And they really loved it.
Okay.
Well, and I remember, Mia, you were telling us that Neo actually went on one of the men's retreats. So, just lets us know you can't just assume that kids are going to be in their shell, that they're not going to be social. Because as Mia, you say this all the time, if you've met one person with autism, you've just met one person with autism. So,
and I think you have to always ask. Like every time, like you have to, I had to learn that because I think I wanted to put him in the shell. He's going to say, no, he's not going to do it. And so I've learned now, no, ask him. He may tell you and then you get surprised and he may surprise you and say yes. So I think we have to always remember to ask, because just because they didn't do it last time, don't mean they're not going to do it this time.
Good point. So now Malachi, we know he's grown now, but I'm sure he had some adventures as a teenager. Again, we're trying to give hope to some caregivers here. So, was he in public school throughout his years? Okay.
Yeah, he was all the way to graduation. Yeah.
And I know you mentioned last time that he had some good support and some not very good support. So you had to advocate for him there.
Yeah, we had the IEP meetings all the way up through high school, trying to address whatever issues there were.
So I can't speak for him, and I don't even know if you can, but high school is different these days, and kids are different. How did he navigate high school? Was there peer pressure or anything that a typical teenager experiences?
Well, I think there probably was. Malachi is not very subject to peer pressure. He, whatever, I don't know if it's part of the spectrum or if it's just him. He has always been he doesn't really care what people think or about him in particular, or he's not pressured to, like I say, he had a couple of friends who, were went off the beaten track, and but well, he invited them to church. He would bring them to
Oh,
church.
wow.
Oh, wow.
They
Oh,
came
wow.
quite
Tell
often.
us about that, about, he obviously has a relationship with the Lord.
He
How
sure
did that
does.
come about? How did that come about?
Well, he was still in grade school, and I have been bringing Malachi to church ever since he was born, more or less. And so one Sunday after church, we came home, and he said, Grandma, will you pray with me so I can accept Jesus into my heart? And
He was in grade school?
yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, I will. But it was kind of shocking, because it was like all of a sudden, and at that time, we didn't really have children's church at Abundant Faith either. So he had just been listening. He was always listening. That was the thing too. Sometimes you think he wasn't listening to you,
That
but
is
then
true.
he's always listening to
That
you.
is true.
Even when you're not talking to him, he's listening.
Yes, that is
And so I said, well, yeah, so yes, I will. And so we prayed, and then I cried, of course, and
so
he didn't.
Normal thing for him.
And that, I mean, he's been faithful the whole time. He's grown so much. Yeah.
That's
So
so beautiful.
yeah, it really was.
I know
Yeah.
you said he probably wasn't the most popular kid in school, and he had a few friends, but it didn't bother him to.
No, it didn't bother him. It just really didn't bother him. And like I say, he was always more friends with adults. And the other thing, funny thing about Malachi is that my husband was, he took on a church temporarily in Girard, and it's, an older church with mostly Caucasian people. And Malachi would go with him like every other Sunday for a while. And they all just loved Malachi. They still ask, how's Malachi? Because he was just, Malachi. That was pretty sweet too. He, like I say, he is the least judgmental person that I know. He just,
Yeah, they really
he accepts people for who they are. And
you're making me think about Neo too. They don't really care. They don't.
No,
they kind of. They don't. It doesn't.
Yeah, but in a good way.
In a good way. In a good way. Yeah, in a good way. Like it doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
So no judgments. No judgments.
Yeah.
And Malachi was friends with the adults in high school. He was friends with the secretaries, the lunch ladies. Yeah. So.
Wow. Now, as you watched him go through high school, and he's coming to the end of his high school years and graduation, what were some of your hopes for him after that?
Yeah, it was hard, because in those early years, it was like, oh, how is this going to play out? How, I don't know. But then as I saw him, gradually, mature and grow, and, deal with the sensory issues and all of those things. And then when he got into the HVAC, I thought, well, this is really something that could really work for him, because he wouldn't have to be sitting in a classroom or an office. He'd be out and about doing things, and that's what he liked to do. And so I, gradually, when he was 16, we used to always eat at this little restaurant, Mekong Cafe, that's down here. And it's a family run business. And so when he got to be 16 and wanted to look for a job, the owners of Mekong said, well, we'd hire you. And so he started, that was his first job. He was washing dishes. And and they just loved him. And it was a great start, because it was family, And the guy's name is Win, and his wife's name is Lisa. And on occasion, she would call me and say, Malachi's not really working as hard as he had been. Is there something going on? So it was kind of nice, kind of a nice,
that she's looking
start.
out and letting things go. So again, there was that support there.
Yeah.
What would you advise parents who, they have the teenager now, and
Yep.
maybe wanting him or her to start to get a sense of independence, earning their own money. And how did you promote that with Malachi? It sounds like he's just kind of cruised through some things.
He has. It's really been kind of crazy, but God.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know, because when we went to Mekong, he was actually putting in an application at Menards
Okay.
at that point in time. And then Lisa, the owner's wife, said, well, you don't want to work at Menards. She said, don't you just, and they're closed on the weekend. So that was a nice perk too.
Oh.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he, and then Stefan and I have talked, because he, when he was in high school, he went through driver's ed,
Yes.
got to be good friends with the driver's ed instructor.
Okay. Now, how was that process of him learning to drive? How did that go?
It went really well, but for Malachi, it's the whole mechanical thing. So, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, he would talk about some of the girls being really bad drivers that were in the car, at the same time. And he may have told them that, because he.
I'm pretty sure he did. He told them.
So, yeah, so that went well. At the time we had a standard transmission car. And so after he got his driver's license, he said to me, will you teach me how to drive a stick?
Oh.
And so I said, yeah, I will. He goes, because it looks pretty easy. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's really not.
It sure is not.
And but he caught on. But it was funny. I taught him in the back alley.
Did you really?
And he killed it,
He's smarter than me. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I couldn't get it.
And he goes, this isn't really as easy as it looks. But yeah, he figured it out. Now, one thing, so Mekong was his first job. His second job was he ended up working at Menards.
Oh,
He did.
Yeah, and he really liked it. He was stocking shelves, but this is kind of one of those incidents where kids adults on the spectrum, he ended up getting let go because he had an incident there. There was another girl that worked there, obviously other girls, and he was stocking shelves, and she asked him to get something off of a higher shelf for her. So he did that. And then when he got it down and gave it to her, he told her that she smelled good. And she reported him for harassment.
For what?
Oh,
He told her that she smelled good.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
Yeah. And so, again, that was one of those things where
he didn't understand that.
No, I mean,
I don't even understand that, and I'm neurotypical right now. I don't understand.
Well, and I don't understand how did that get him fired though?
Well, no, because the boss really liked him, and so he kind of pulled him aside and said, Malachi, I know you didn't mean anything, but she reported you, so I have to talk to you. So fine. So he said, okay, I didn't mean anything, and the guy said, well, I know you didn't, but and so he was there. I don't know, there's probably a month or so went by. And this one really gets me. So same girl, he came in and he wanted to hang up his coat, and she was in the way of where they hang up their coats. So he tapped her on the shoulder and said, I need to hang up my coat. Can you move aside? She reported him again that he touched her.
Oh my goodness.
And then he got fired.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because the boss said, it's the second time she's complained and I can't let it go,
Oh.
Yeah, so that,
what? And she probably liked him and he wasn't catching the clues and didn't care. And she's like, I'm getting you back, buddy.
Yeah, so
I am stunned.
And I was I was very unhappy about that, and I was and so
how did he process that?
Yes, how did he process?
Well, it happens, well, so a week or so later we went in there and I was, I was having a much harder time letting it go than he was. And so
like Grandma Bear, Mama Bear.
that's right. We're in there walking around, and I swear everybody at Menards is like, hey, Malachi, how you doing? We really miss you. They're all talking to him. I said, so where's that girl?
Barb, what were you gonna do?
I know. I said, where's that girl? Is she here? And he goes, I don't know, Grandma. And I'm like, because I really like to see who she is.
Yeah, someone.
And I said, dumb girl, I can't believe she reported you like that. He goes, no, she's not dumb. She's smart. She's on the honor roll.
He took that totally literally.
And I'm like,
There you go. It's that literal, that superpower kicking in, and it kind of checks us every time, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like, okay, Grandma, let it go. Okay.
Yeah. He's like, look, he's moved on. Grandma, come on.
Yeah, Grandma
right.
gotta move. Oh man, yeah, I wouldn't.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now has he experienced or shared any, of his feelings about girls with you?
Dating. Oh, like a dating.
Yeah, about like a dating.
And he tends to have more girls as friends.
Oh.
He has quite a few girls that are friends.
Okay.
So much so that sometimes I'll say, now, which one is she? He has had a couple of relationships. One that went on for a while, it was a girl from church.
Oh.
But, and I think, I want to say she was older than him. But Malachi is also quite independent, and she was, she was not happy because he wasn't coming over enough, and and this and that. And after a while, he was like, I don't think this is going to work. And it was kind of hard for me because he had brought her over to the house, and we had her over for dinner and stuff, and I really liked her.
You liked her.
I wasn't ready to break up.
Grandma wasn't ready to break.
He knew it was time.
Beautiful.
Yeah, when he told me, I was like, you did? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, okay.
Oh. Now,
So then he met somebody on a dating app.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's big stuff.
In Champaign, and he went and met her for dinner a couple of times, but I don't know, that didn't seem to really pan out. So so yeah, he's
okay.
He's better with having girls as friends, but every now and again there is another girl that he met online. She's in school, like design arts or something, and she had a fashion show somewhere in the Bloomington area. And now Malachi, that's the other thing about Malachi, is he's also very tender-hearted, and I guess he had been talking to her, and they had made these outfits, and they were going to be modeling them. Yeah. And her family, none of them could come to the fashion show for whatever reason. And so Malachi surprised her. He bought a ticket. I think it was in Columbia, Missouri, where the show was, and showed up at the fashion show for her. And I guess she was pretty excited when she saw that he had actually taken all the trouble to come to the show. So I think he likes her quite a bit, so I don't know where that'll go, but we'll see.
Now, what was it like when he moved out? Because he's on his own now, is that right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was harder for his mom than it was for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was like, my baby's moving out, and I mean, Malachi has a little sister. She's 7. I think he's ready to move away from his little sister.
Okay.
But yeah, he worked at this job. He got a job in Bloomington. He's loading trucks.
Mhm.
And he has an uncle that lives there. And so when he first moved, his uncle said, well, you can live here. That he has a family, and he said, we have a lower level that you can just live in. Because he told Malachi, you might want to wait before you look for an apartment to make sure this job's going to really work for you. So he lived with him for about 6 weeks. And in the meantime, he was looking for apartments. So, and that was kind of the requirement. This uncle's name is Chris, and he said, you can stay as long as you need to. I just need to know you're actively looking for an apartment. So I thought that was a really great guideline.
Yeah.
And so Malachi found this apartment. It's a duplex. So he's in the upper level.
Did he need help with how to navigate and how to do apartment? No. Oh.
No, or not paying bills.
Bill.
Wow. Found it online. He showed it to me and his mom. He was actively looking, he kept showing me apartments. Isn't this one nice? What do you think about this one? And I was a little nervous about it. I'm like, I don't know if you really know what you're getting into exactly. You're going to have, a lot of bills, and, but yeah, he found this apartment, and the hours he works are kind of weird. He starts at 5 o'clock at night and works till 2 in the morning.
Oh.
And so he would get off at 2 in the morning, and he would drive by the apartments he was interested in to see if it was quiet or if there was a lot of activity.
Look, smart. That's just so smart.
I know.
Hey.
And so this apartment that he found, he really liked, and it's only like 7 minutes from where he works. So
wow.
Yeah. So no, it was kind of shocking. He just navigated that. And
I'm just like making a list of all his superpowers, how organized.
And Brenda, isn't this hopeful? Like, this is why I'm glad he's across the street, because it's like, oh, okay, Neoka's going to be able to do this. It's so hopeful, because you need to see a visual, because she's right. When you're going through it, you're like, this ain't going to never end. And they're never. And so seeing him drive
and become independent.
Yeah, because me and Stefan have a talk all the time. Is he gonna have to live with us? We don't. That's not our prayer. That's not our wish. We want him to get married and have kids, and so. But seeing Malachi, I'm like, oh yeah, this could happen.
Because Stefan will say that to me.
Yes,
that gives me hope.
That gives us hope. Yeah.
So
what are your hopes for Malachi now in the future?
Well, Malachi, the other thing about Malachi is, we see obstacles, we see, I don't know, and he does not see things that way. So what he really wants to do when he took this job, it's with speedy delivery. And so at the time they had talked about how they would provide free training, because he would kind of like to be a truck driver.
Oh.
And so he took the job with the hope that he would get this training for free. And shortly after he started, he talked to his boss, and his boss said that they had discontinued that.
Oh.
And so, but again, this is Malachi.
Okay.
So Speedy Delivery is located or headquartered in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Okay.
So the CEO happened to be in the area, and then there was a big snowstorm in St. Cloud, Minnesota, so he couldn't get back. So he was in the warehouse. Well, here again, Malachi is not afraid to approach people. He is not intimidated. And so he talked to the CEO, and he told him, when I took this job, this is what I had wanted to do, but I understand you've discontinued the program. And the guy said, well, we have, but we could make an exception.
Oh, wow.
He said,
wow.
Yeah. He said, but you would have to drive the local delivery truck. I think he told him for 90 days or something.
Okay.
And then we'll look into it. And then he gave Malachi his card and said, you just keep in touch and let me know.
Wow.
And he will.
Well, he certainly will.
I know he will. That's amazing. So Barb, I have to say, you and your daughter you've done an amazing job with him.
Amazing.
You truly have. So what would you say is your superpower?
Oh,
what's that gift that he brought out in you that maybe you didn't even realize was there?
Well, I don't know if he brought it out in me, but I've always I've been the calm in the storm. I can't always be that for myself. But with Malachi, he would have his meltdowns and throw himself on the floor and stuff when he was younger. I never got real upset about it. I was like, he'll calm down, he'll be okay. And that's kind of how it's gone through life especially with him, I think. I mean, he would call. Here's another funny story.
Yeah.
So, when I was still working, I've retired since, but I think he was in middle school, might have been grade school, but anyway, he wasn't feeling well. So he went to the nurse and told her he wasn't feeling good. And he said, but don't call my mom because she's short on money. He said, so call my grandma instead. And so they did. And that and she goes, oh, I can't believe Malachi said that.
oh my God.
But
oh my goodness.
Like I say, he calls them like he sees them,
Yeah.
So. Brenda, and I can attest to that because he wanted to, him and Stefan were going to work on our car, and I backed in the driveway and I backed up that way, and I turned around in my rear view and he's like at the door over me. So you can imagine I'm freaked out. I didn't really register that it was him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get something. Somebody's coming into the car. And I said, Malachi, what are you doing? He's like, well, Miss Mia, I was coming to fix the car. What do you mean? Did you get out? I got to go and fix your other car. He didn't register that. He's like, scared me after that.
Yeah.
He didn't understand that, like, dude, you can't run up on the door. Like,
Right. He was just doing what he came over to do. So, ladies, we could go on and on, but we can't. We have come to the end of the show. Barb, you gotta come back on. Yep. So
well, I'm close.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yep. Just come on across the street. So thank you so much for sharing and for truly giving our listeners hope. That their little super kids will grow up to be incredible, super powerful adults.
Yes.
Yeah. When I look at Malachi now, I think I never would have dreamed. When he was in the throes, if you would have said this is how he's going to turn out, I'd have been like, yeah, I don't see it.
Wow. God knew. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. Listeners, you've been listening to the Superpower Radio Show with your host, Brenda Major, and
Mia Dawson.
And our super guest, Barb Nagel. All right, we will catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
See ya.